In Japan, good sushi isn't one thing. The real question is, what kind of sushi experience am I gonna have today? Hi everyone, it's Abby from Pictour. We do tours, photography, and trip planning here. And in this video, I'm gonna make sushi really easy for you. But before we get into the actual sushi, here's how this video works. I'm going to try quite a few different sushi options, score each one somewhat liberally based on my perception of things like price, convenience, fish, flavor, the rice, and then overall satisfaction, and then drop each place into an S to D tier list. And just to be clear, this also is not like a most expensive equals best list. The tier is basically answering one question. Would I actually recommend this to somebody visiting Japan? Here's what each of my tiers mean. S, I would go out of my way for this. It's worth planning your trip around. A, yeah, it's really, really good. If it's near you, absolutely do it. B, solid, dependable, great default choice. C, fine if it's convenient, but it's not something I'd like specifically seek out. D, I'd skip it unless it's your only option or you're just curious. And by the way, this is my tier list, emphasis on MY, my. Y'all can kindly and gently express your opinions in the comments, but as somebody that eats a lot of sushi, it's probably like my favorite food, this will hopefully give you some ideas. So let's start off with konbini sushi. This might be considered at the very bottom of the ladder. What I usually would get from the konbini would be more like maki rolls, and then they would have things that are kind of in between an onigiri and a sushi. My biggest problem with konbini sushi would be the freshness. So of course, sushi that is at a convenience store is never going to be particularly fresh, and I think the saddest part of it is that the rice is very, very hard. If I really need to get konbini sushi for some reason, at least I get it and I leave it on the table for like 10 to 20 minutes. Basically, konbini sushi I think is a great baseline because if you try it first, you'll really notice what improves as you move up the tiers. So unfortunately, konbini sushi is gonna have to go to D tier. I'm sorry, konbini sushi. Next would be big conveyor belt chains. So kaiten sushi. Kaiten sushi is rotating sushi. And honestly, this is the easiest first sushi in Japan move, in my opinion. It's perfect if you're a first-time visitor and you want something that's very simple to order because it's just on a screen, predictable, and very low stress. And it also works great for families, groups, even solo diners because you can eat fast or you can take your time and nobody cares. When you walk into rotating sushi, you're gonna look for things like tablet ordering, clear pricing, and places that look clean and somewhat busy. Because chains are chains, every location will often be different, so you'll have different experiences at different locations, obviously. But if I go in somewhere and it doesn't look like they are organized or it smells a little bit weird in there, I would leave. Anyway, once you're seated, check the menu for some bonus points. They have things like seasonal specials or like fun side dishes like chawanmushi or miso soup or french fries or chicken. That's bonus because honestly, I think chain kaiten sushis are one of the best places to do an everything meal where you get not only sushi, but you can try like 3 dozen other things with it. If you want to order like a pro, I start with a quick benchmark round. I usually go for like a tuna, a salmon. That will tell me a lot if the rice is fresh or if it just feels like the robot in the back just like casually dropped it onto the plate. If the fish is fresh and whether the place is solid overall. And I say this because sometimes if I'm in a different city and I go to a chain restaurant, it might be trash. And before I order like 10 different things, I would like to know off the bat if I should just, pack it up, pay my 400 yen, and go somewhere else. After that, if it's good, I usually order things next like whitefish. And then I like to get the seasonal options that they push because that's also one of the very fun parts is a lot of the big chain restaurants will do collaborations with different things, whether it be anime chefs. Oftentimes they'll do collaborations with like actual pro chefs that come up with really unique flavors. So some of the big chains you might have heard of would be Sushiro, Kurazushi, Hamazushi, and Kappazushi. Those are pretty much like the big four. It's hard for me to rank these specifically because the quality does depend on the location, but I'm gonna give my general impressions just based off of my general average experience at them. And then I'm also gonna list a few other chains that aren't the big four that I think may or may not be good as well. So let's start with Sushido. Sushido, honestly, for me, is an S tier place. Cost performance is phenomenal. Sushiro has in the past year or two gone in and totally like revamped, redesigned some of their locations. I live in Kyoto, so a few of them here are very, very nice, very clean, very cool like screens. And they do so many collaborations as well all the time. I love when they actually do it with chefs. I think that's sick. They have really cool flavors that they make. Honestly, every time I leave Sushido, I feel very, very satisfied. Like I feel like I ripped them off, to be honest. Like I think the fish is surprisingly good as well for what you're paying for. So I really just have to keep them in S tier. Next up would be Kurazushi. So I hate to say it, Kurazushi is a fun place, but it gets a C from me. And that's because I think as an adult, they focus too much on the fun and the kid-friendliness of everything. And honestly, every Kurazushi I've ever been to, the noise in there is breaking the sound barrier. I have never been to a place that is as loud, whether from beeping or the announcement like number 612 can now sit, and then it's like children screaming. They do have very fun collabs that they do, but in terms of like the sushi itself, I don't even know if I've been able to enjoy it properly just because of this. It's good. I think it's not to the extent of quality that Sushiro is, but it loses too many points because of the insane noise levels. Next would be Hamazushi. This gets a B. It's a little more suburban, so they're a little bit harder to find inside like city center, that's hard to say, areas. Hamazushi can be pretty good. I've had some excellent sushi for great costs at Hamazushi, but some of them are also incredibly mid. So it is completely luck of the draw with Hamazushi more than even like Sushiro, I think. I do think Hamazushi has very good desserts, but that is completely irrelevant to sushi. And the final of the big four that I'll cover would be Kappazushi. People that have been long familiar with Japan may have heard of Kappazushi. They used to be the #1 chain in Japan, literally, but they have taken a very, very hard fall over the past decade. They were well known for having 100 yen plates. Many locations have closed. Actually, Tape and I, on like our second or so date, went to a Kappazushi. It's not there anymore. It's a karaoke place there now. Actually, the building that it's in is well known for being the building that Sakamoto Ryoma was assassinated in, so maybe there's just a curse there. But anyway, while I'd like to rank it higher just out of pure respect for the heights that they reached, I truly cannot. So it will enter the D tier, where it can die. Next up is Nigiri Chojiro. You'll find this around like station areas a lot of the times. It gets a B from me. I went here for the first time recently, and while the quality was pretty good, I wasn't impressed enough by anything else to justify the like double cost of the sushi compared to other revolving sushi places. Zero ambiance. Sushi was fine. Fish was bigger. Everything was good, but I think I was just so distracted by how much money I was spending on sushi that really wasn't like that much better than other revolving sushi places that I think it just has to end up in B. Next is Kanazawa Maimon Sushi. So another recent first for me, and they get an A. This is a smaller chain, obviously from Kanazawa. The one I went to was inside Kyoto Station. I thought the sushi was phenomenal. Like, I was actually shocked. Kanazawa is quite famous for having sushi restaurants, and they're really carrying the reputation very, very well. Really quite good, and if you go to a sushi restaurant and it's a lot of Japanese people, pretty much this was like 90% Japanese people, and we went at like 3 p.m. and it was busy. You know it's good, and it was. Next up is Mori Mori Sushi. This gets a B. They're generally quite good, but I feel like the locations outside of Kanazawa, again, Kanazawa where it's from, just don't match the same quality. Next up is sushi zanmai. This gets a B. It's not revolving sushi, but it's still a popular chain, so I'm gonna throw it in here. It's pretty good sushi, but the selection at most places is pretty limited, and I definitely feel like the prices seem too high for what I get again. Next up is Kaiten Sushi Ginza Onodera. This is a C from me, and I just think it feels too pretentious. Like, I'm sorry, maybe this is just a personal problem, but when I go in there, they try to be like they're bougie, and the cost of all the sushi is high, but I don't think it's like, it's not that much better than sushi. Also, I don't think their selection is that impressive either. So those are my takes on the different revolving sushi chains. Let's move on to local neighborhood conveyor belt sushi chains. So this is where things can kind of maybe get good without jumping all the way to fancier, like, counter sushi prices. This is a good selection of stuff for people who want maybe better fish, a little more like local personality, but still want a place that's pretty casual and approachable. Also, these places often have more like local sourcing. So how do you pick a good place? Like I've mentioned earlier, if you see a line at peak time, that's a good sign because it means people actually want to eat their sushi. Lots of Japanese people. Japanese people are a little more maybe discerning when it comes to sushi quality, or at least able to be discerning than people who maybe are from the West and don't eat quite so much sushi, or are more used to like maki rolls, that sort of like American sushi. So seeing Japanese people is generally a good sign. And then having a sign outside that has like today's specials or seasonal stuff, that means they're putting a focus on seasonality and freshness. So that's also a good sign. A few strategy notes for enjoying these more like local places would be, don't just spam X for salmon and tuna. Ask for what's good today. Like I said, even a simple osusume wa nan desu ka works really well. So, or even just like osusume. Osusume is recommendation. Osusume wa, and they'll get the gist of what you're trying to say. Throw that out there and see what kind of good things a chef would recommend for you. And honestly, I think the whole point of choosing neighborhood, like local sushi places in the first place is being able to enjoy some of the like local specialty fish or their seasonal fish or whatever. That's like one of the massive advantages of it. So I'm gonna put local conveyor belt sushi places at S tier. I've had some of the best sushi ever at random neighborhood conveyor belt sushi restaurants. I can't give you specific examples of this. It's something you will just have to find for yourself. I think generally the cost performance, kind of casualness of it, the freshness of like local fish, it all turns out to be really good. Next up would be casual counter sushi, not omakase. So this is when you go to a small like sushi restaurant where you sit at a counter and you order piece by piece, or maybe you get like the lunch set. But this is not including the super formal reservation only omakase experiences that we will talk about in a minute. Why these kind of counter sushi places are great, they generally have a good balance of craft and price, and they have more of a real sushi vibe without maybe so much pressure as going to the luxurious places. Like every local place, they should have good seasonal fish and specials. I do find counter sushi to be pretty hit or miss, to be completely honest with you. Some of them are very, very expensive when you go to like tourist areas, and you'll still be spending probably quite a bit more money than anything I've mentioned previously up until this point. So I do have to put this at B tier because while counter sushi can be very, very good, I don't think I've been to one that like absolutely blew my mind to the extent that I felt like it was worth the cost. Finally, we have the high-end omakase, aka the fancy stuff. So this is for the food-motivated travelers, special occasions, and people who enjoy like the pacing and the conversation with the chef and the subtleness of everything. You're of course paying for very good ingredient sourcing. Of course, the fish are going to be great themselves and sliced incredibly professionally compared to like the robot in the back of the sushi roll. Aging of the fish, the mastery of how they cook the rice and then how they shape it and all of the stuff that goes into that. And then the structuring of the courses themselves, as well as things like service, which should be very good knowing Japan, and atmosphere. All those things you're paying for as well. Pretty much to do some kind of omakase, you will need a reservation. They will also typically have a set menu, so you don't get to just show up and do whatever you want. You get the omakase, the leaving it to the chef. That's what omakase literally means. I leave it to you. So how do you know if this kind of experience is worth it for you? Well, you're gonna need to like a lot of fish. You're gonna need to like the delicate white fish, the shellfish, the subtleness of certain fish. You need to enjoy the multi-course pacing of things, and you need to be okay not choosing. You need to be okay leaving it to the chef. I'm not gonna sit here and like rank a bunch of omakase restaurants, not only because I value my wallet, but because I don't want to act like I'm some sort of discerning food critic. Obviously, you're witnessing my list so far. My S tier includes sushi roll. This is my list again. Hello, this is mine. However, I do have to be true to myself here and put high-end sushi at a C. So some of you can hate me for this. You could be in the comments like she has no taste, blah, blah, blah. But what you're paying for is really an experience. So if you're someone who wants to spend the big bucks on a special, unique experience, yes, you should try it one time. However, I guess I'm someone who is more easily satisfied with the simple things in life. And while I definitely have enjoyed the fancy fish that I've had in my time, I don't think it necessarily satisfied me any more than the places where I spent less money and just had a fun experience eating lots of sushi. I think C tier is an appropriate place because I think if you're interested in it, yeah, you should try it. But you don't need to be doing like 27 different omakases while you're in Japan. And as another note, you do need to dress appropriately. You need to know some proper etiquette, and you probably don't bring your kids when it comes to this sort of thing. So you also need to plan appropriately. As a decision guide, to pick your tier in 10 seconds. 10 minutes to eat an under 1,000 yen konbini. Easy and fun and consistent, big chain kaiten sushi. Value and some local character, local kaiten sushi. Some craft and some chef interaction, casual counter sushi. A full culinary experience, the high-end omakase. As a final tip, please do check out our sushi guide that we meticulously crafted for everything you need to know about enjoying sushi, including even things like what fish to order and in what order and how to enjoy them. Because I think this, whether from sushiro or to spending $200 per person on sushi, just watching this video will already make these experiences better and more clear and more enjoyable for you. So to close, please remember this is my opinion. I'm allowed to have my opinion just like you're allowed to have yours. So please do feel free to let me know in the comments what kind of sushi experiences you have had or that you would like to have, and let me know why you enjoyed them. But at the end of the day, I do think the best sushi is just whatever sushi matches your day and makes you happy when you eat it. So that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.